Here are 12 tips to help you get an A in physics. Tip number 1 is to skim the chapter before class. So the goal here is to think about what you will learn. You want to look at the titles, subtitles, pictures, captions, bold key terms, and the key thing here is to anticipate what you'll learn. Tip number 2 is to ask questions. You can do this during class or individually with the instructor or during office hours with the instructor. And it's okay to give yourself some time to think before you ask questions. Maybe you want a day to think about it, but you don't want to wait until the last minute. Don't wait until the day of the exam to ask questions. Tip number 3 is to practice. And in physics, practice means solving problems. You want to do as many problems as you can. You need to set aside time to do these problems. Tip number 4 is to review regularly, even if you don't have any homework. To review, you want to look over your notes, go over your assignments, work through some problems. This could be 4 days a week. It could be 6 days a week. You need to find out a schedule that works for you. Tip number 5 is to be organized. You want to be able to quickly find your notes and assignments. The key here is to be efficient with your time. Tip number 6 is to know what to study for on a quiz or test. You want to pay attention to the instructor's hints if they say this is going to be on the test. You want to also look at previous tests to get an idea of the format and level of difficulty. Most instructors will tell you the format. For example, is it multiple choice or free response or both? And some will even provide a study guide. You want to definitely spend time on those resources. Tip number 7, don't simply memorize. You want to make sure you understand the concept. In physics, it's not just remembering things, but it's all understanding the concepts. Some students have a false assurance that they think that if they memorize, they're going to do well, but that's not true. You actually need to understand the concepts. Tip number 8 is to try problems before looking at the solutions. So some instructors will give you answers and solutions. So you want to first try to do them. If you get stuck, look at the notes. If you still get stuck, maybe ask a classmate, and then only after you've given it a good honest effort should you look at the solution. Then you need to ask yourself, does the solution make sense? If not, you're not done with the problem yet. You still need to ask for help to understand how the solution answers the problem. Tip number 9, you want to think about how physics applies to your experience outside of class. So if there's something in the real world outside the class that seems to contradict what you learn in class, you want to ask questions. You want to ask, how does what I'm learning in class relate to what I see in the outside world? Tip number 10, explain solutions to other students. One of the signs that you understand a concept is that if you can explain it to someone else. And this works especially well if you can find someone else in class and you guys can take turns explain your solutions to each other. You could use a piece of paper or a whiteboard. Tip number 11, use multiple representations. These, for example, include force diagrams and motion graphs and math equations. All representations have limitations, but we use them because they're useful. So make sure you understand how to use each of these representations. Tip number 12, you want to use the same calculator all the time. Sometimes I see students using a computer or a different calculator on their assignments and then a different one on the exam. And they're going to have some problems sometimes because they don't know how to perform a certain function on their calculator. So make sure you use the same calculator every single time. So now that I've shared with you 12 of my top tips, what are your top tips? Let me know in the comments. Thanks.